long as you want.
All right.
All right.
So last time I went 30 minutes,
Okay.
give or take.
All right.
So a ballpark. But I didn't finish, so we'll see. But I just wanted to thank you, Roger, for your willingness to have me out here, and definitely feeling the love. Got my girlfriend, my CR Chester group buddies coming to support me. It's awesome. And yeah, please forgive me. This is only my second time sharing my testimony. I don't have any real public speaking experience. But from our service leader and our pastor at GBC, Pastor Pete, he says that at any walk in our life with the Lord, that he has equipped us to extend the Word of God and extend the kingdom of God. And I really took that to heart, and I encourage everybody to do the same, no matter where you're at. We all have something to offer. We can all inspire somebody. We can deliver somebody from their suffering, from our experiences and our learning. So with no further ado, I guess I'll dive in. Last time I kind of struggled with the transition into my beginning. But so I'll start 1988, year before I was born, where my mother and my father, both heroin addicts, met in a rehab facility in Clinton, New Jersey. Not exactly your recipe for happy ever after, but it is what it is. And a year later, I was born in Florida, Largo, Florida. Obviously, they were not equipped to be raising a kid in that condition. So in 2 or 3 weeks' time, I was up in New Jersey under the care and surveillance of my grandparents, my biological grandma, and my step grandfather. Fast forward to when I was 4 years old. That time, my mother actually tried to sue my grandma that she committed sexual assault against me, so that she can obtain custody of me, so that she can increase her welfare checks and take me under with her, my half brother and my half sister. She failed that. Not one month later, my grandmother actually passed away from breast cancer. And my dad, who was clean for a couple months at the time, he fled to Florida, and he got in an altercation in a drug deal gone bad, and he committed manslaughter, and was sentenced to 18 years in prison. So at that time, my mom, my dad, completely were out of my life, and I was left under complete, full, 100% custody of my step grandfather. I owe this man my life. He really dedicated everything, and he was tough. He was tough on me. He was a blue collar guy. Sorry, it's the first time I've ever gotten emotional, but forgive me. But he was fair. And even though he was tough, I was still always getting in trouble in school. And it was right around this time, probably when I was about 12 years old, I really recognized my gift in baseball. And he devoted everything to make sure that I exploited that potential, no matter what it took. Even if I didn't give it my best effort, he put me in every rightful opportunity to make sure that I succeeded in that sport. And my sophomore year, he took me out of Bernards High School, the local public high school, and sent me to Seton Hall Prep, who historically is the best baseball program in New Jersey. And it delivered me from a lot. I know the kids that I grew up with and what they became, and I would have became exactly that. And it would have been dark. And that was probably my first God experience, my sophomore year, walking in. I'll never forget, because it's a Catholic school and everybody is up there and they're reciting back, "Peace be with you and also with you." What the heck is and they're doing the cross and and I had no idea. And I kind of accepted that God was just something that you were raised with in your family. And through the teachings over those 4 years, I never seeked it in curiosity. I never knew that I needed to to seek it for him to come to me, even though he saved us. But I just accepted it was something that other people had and I didn't have, and I was okay with that. And I was, in my mind, I was there for baseball. But you know, that year, my junior year, we were actually the #1 team in the nation. We had 31 guys play Division I baseball. One was a first-round draft pick and Cy Young Award winner Rick Porcello. And even through all this, being surrounded by absolute excellence, I was lazy. I took my gift for absolute granted. I didn't really care, to be honest. I just relied on my God-given ability, and you know, for so long I look back and regret with that you know, I just didn't try harder. I didn't exploit my gift. But as you'll soon see, you know, that was it was actually a big blessing in disguise. So from senior to freshman year, I lost about 20 pounds. I grew 4 inches, and I got my braces off. So, oh, and I committed to play at Seton Hall University. And this is when alcohol and sex and lust and all that good stuff really just became the main priority in my life. Because I was complacent. I was like, well, I accepted a scholarship. You know, this is, I waited for so long for this so I can indulge in this, and I really rode that wave into my freshman year. And it actually totally consumed me. Even though I was having on-field success, I had a 2.0 GPA. I, you know, never showed up to class. And it nearly ruined my freshman year, almost entirely. And then if it didn't then, it did my sophomore year. My sophomore year, God graced me with my first ever girlfriend, and you know, I fell in love with her, and you know, it was a great time, and she then became the priority of my life. Baseball was like 4. It was like girls or girlfriend, party, more girlfriend, and then, like, you know, baseball was down there. And I just remember, you know, carrying through that year, I got caught drinking twice in the dorms. And I'm sitting outside, the coach finds out, he gives me a call, he's like, you know what, Henry, I think it's best that we part ways. You know, this isn't working out, obviously you have other obligations, I think it's time that we move on. And, you know, a month before that, my girlfriend's sister committed suicide. And this was in the midst of our season where we're playing and we're traveling 5 out of 7 days a week. So physically and emotionally, I wasn't there for her in her greatest time of need. And she broke up with me the same week that I was kicked off the baseball team. So this is when God brought me face to face with my sins, I think. You know, everything that I took for granted, all the I don't care mentality, all my complacency was brought right to that moment. And then it just really downward spiraled into drinking, weed, you know, and it pretty much just stopped there, but it was constant throughout that whole summer. But God grace, it prevailed. It prevailed. I committed to go play baseball at Montclair State, and I'm sitting in my academic advisor's office, and hand to God, I fill out the form. My name is on my pen's on the signature part. He knocks on the door, and he goes, Henry, I want to talk to you real quick. He takes me around, and he's like, you know what? I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm gonna ask you back on the team. And talk about not earning something. I didn't earn that opportunity, and I haven't officially given him my gratitude, but I swore to myself next time I see him that I will, because that saved my life. And I just thank God that he filled his spirit to give him the motivation to ask me back, because he had no right to. And I knew that if I went to Montclair, where they don't drug test, none of that, you know, the season's about half the time, that my life would have been consumed by it. And going into the first day of junior year, you know, after that summer of roller coaster, I sit down, it's my first class, I'll never forget, and I look to my left, and something kind of supernatural happens with this girl next to me, and I look, and I get blinded by this like white light around. I can't really describe it. And I end up dating this girl, Chelsea. Absolute sweetheart. Her mom was a pastor. You know, just if there was a representation of Jesus' character in a female body, to me, it was in her. And you know, we carried on, but I knew quickly that it wasn't going to last. You know, I wasn't in love with her because my heart was kind of somewhere else. And, you know, but at the same time, God kept me through it. He told me to kind of stay with her, stay in that place. Oh, okay. This is also when my second supernatural experience happened, and it was in the form of the devil, and it was quite clear, and it was kind of persistent. Where I went to bed one night, and I was laying in my bed, halfway between sleeping, unsleeping, and I suddenly wake up, but I can't move. I can't move. I can't open my mouth. I can't talk. And I feel like there's quicksand on top of me, absorbing me. I had sleep paralysis. There was ghost shadows flying across my room. There was red light beaming through the windows. Something was walking up the stairs. The door, or the knobs to my dresser were opening and closing. But since I can only see up, I was very limited, and I couldn't speak to anybody. It was the most terrifying moment of my entire life. And I used to fight it, and it would just amplify and amplify to get worse and louder and stronger. And then I learned to seek Jesus and just release and let go and relax. And it worked. Even though it was consistent, and it would happen, I think it happened once every night for a month. And I was terrified to go to bed. I knew it was going to happen. I accepted it, and it was a absolute nightmare. But it for the first time kind of opened my eyes to a power greater than me. Fast forward to the end of that year, our team, the year before we were really bad. Now this is my junior year, and it's the last regular season of the last game of the regular season. If we win, we go to the Big East Championship tournament. If we lose, we're out. We're on the eighth seed bubble, and it's bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. We're down by 1, and our catcher hits a walk off. We go to the tournament, and we hit 2 tiebreakers. We go from the last seed to the 5th seed in a matter of an hour. And within that, we're so giddy when we get there. No one appreciated their time at that tournament more than us. And you could tell we're at the pool, you know, running around like little girls and, you know, hitting golf balls. And we ended up winning the whole thing somehow. We went 4-0, we win, and it was the best, hands down the best team celebration I've ever experienced. We went on to play Texas A&M in a regional. You know, if baseball taught me anything, it above all, you know, how to be perseverant and just conditioned for failure. It taught me how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, and being true in that moment. You know, where you are completely powerless and everything seems to be going against you. That you have a choice to engage in it in a negative way, or choose to see the good and accept it. And you know, baseball taught me that. Because there's pressure moments, there's stuff on the line, you know, you got your coach yelling at you, you got all these other things, you got the pressure of the world when you're pitching, and you know, it kind of brings you through that, conditions you for that. So anyway, my senior year, my first class, I sit down and I know that criminology was not my thing. I knew I wasn't going to do it. I was like, classes are cool, but I'm not going to be a cop. I'm not going to, you know, but I knew right away. And it was right around this time I really started to open up spiritually. October of that month, something pretty crazy happened. I'm with my girlfriend Chelsea. She gets a phone call from her dad, and he's like, "Don't come home. Don't come home. Whatever you do, don't come home. It's no good here." I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? You know, like, this is crazy. And we call back, and turns out they're at the end of they're at their house. They're having a casual conversation with a cop in town who is a family friend for a long time. And in October is the initiation of gangs. And what happened was the member of the Bloods walked up, just as they're sitting not 10 feet away, shot the cop 3 times, pointed the gun at them, and ran off. And he's telling this on the other end of the phone call. And oh my gosh, that is crazy. That's an unbelievable story. And going into December, this was kind of the first time where I really started to open up spiritually. I started watching a show, Ancient Aliens. I don't know if everyone ever seen this, but it was kind of the first time that supernatural or something, a power greater than us, kind of made sense to me, because it was explained in worldly objects. You know, it kind of tried to break down the mysteries of the world, and you know, that there is a power greater than us for these things to happen. And I was convinced it was aliens. You know, it's hilarious. But until December, when I met with Chelsea's mom, who's a pastor, and you know, she broke down her life experience, and for the first time, I opened up spiritually in a way that, you know, I'll never forget. Here she is in witness protection, and she goes on to share her story of how she had throat cancer, and she's meeting with the doctor, and the doctor said, "We need to get you scheduled for an immediate operation next week." They pencil it in. She's leaving the office, and she hears an audible voice of God saying, "You are cured." Her husband at the time, a non-believer, they go back to the doctor's office, and the doctor says, "You wouldn't believe it. You don't have cancer." And he turned white in the face and fell over. 1 week later, he confessed and turned his heart and his will over to God. And she's telling me that the time of when the cop was sitting there when he was shot, and the guy came and pointed the gun at her, and she's explaining this experience, and to me, I can't relate to anything like that. And she's like, "Henry, you know what? In the midst of an absolute tragedy where God cannot be seen, I felt his halo. I felt his blanket. I had so much peace in that moment. I knew that nothing was going to happen, that we were protected." And she goes on to explain this, and I have to like sit down, because, you know, it's just so impacting. And for the first time, she kind of broke down who God was, and it's more about the relationship than the religion. And if you focus on that and you seek that you will find him. And if you stay persistent and continue to seek that, he will show himself to you. And I really took that to heart. And that night, you know, my head was spinning. I go back the next day, I'm driving home. And I'll never forget, I knew in that moment that Chelsea and I, our relationship should not continue anymore. It was never divine up until that moment, but I'm in my head, I'm picturing the conversation I'm gonna have with her as I break up with her. And I was like, "You know what, Chelsea," in my head, I just wanted to just tell your mom thank you for bringing me to God. And when I said that, I looked to the right, and it was the church where I was baptized, where my grandmother was buried, and I was hit with a flashbang. White light experience. I can't explain it, but I shed one tear. I said, "He is real." And in that moment, that was the first time I ever acknowledged God's experience, or God's existence. Next week is Christmas, and for this whole time, my girlfriend was like, "Come to church with us, come to church with us." Nah, it's not for me, it's not for me. I don't understand it, because my experience was the Catholic Church, and I was like, you know, I felt embarrassed when I would go, and I didn't know any of the stuff. And she's like, "No, it's different, you don't understand, it's different." And I was like, all right, you know what, just like a lot of people, I felt that obligation during the Christmas, Easter time, and so I went. And because the first time I recognized God, and, you know, I was kind of riding this momentum wave, I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm feeling good. Let's go. And, you know, the pastor ends his service, and he's going around. He's like, "If there's anybody who has recently come to God, please raise their hand." And he goes, he blesses that guy, and he blesses that guy, and he comes to me, and I was a little hesitant. I raised my hand, and he blesses me in that moment, and I felt
Come on.
the electrical lightning bolt come down and just rip right through my body like in a magnetic orgasm. It was unbelievable. And in that moment, I knew that I was born again. I was born again. And that year, I went on to have one of the best years on the baseball field. But but I should take sorry, I skipped over one thing. Junior year was the first time that I really started to appreciate the game of baseball for the first time and recognize my gift and work hard because I got hurt. And that lasted with me for 7 years. And I couldn't escape it. I had a constant pain in my right shoulder. I had an imbalance in my body because pitching, you're constantly doing the same motion over and over and over and over and over again. And to the point where it consumed my mind, it consumed my thoughts, it consumed my being, and I was powerless over this. I couldn't find what was the root cause of this pain. And anyway, this pushed me to work hard and work hard and work hard and work harder. For the first time, I actually cared about the game. And I battled with it all throughout senior year and again till 25 at Christmas time when God just amazingly and it left, and I haven't had issues with it since. But that year, we're playing Rutgers in the Big East tournament. It was our in-state rival, and my dad shows up. He said he was going to come. This is the third time he said he was going to come. I've never met him before, and he came. And I wasn't scheduled to pitch, but I pitched, and takes you to the 9th inning. We're playing Rutgers. We're up by 3 runs, and I get the first guy out, second guy error, walk, hit, get the next guy out. So that takes us to bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, bases loaded, and who walks up but the MVP of the conference, Pat Kivelhan, who's playing left field for the Cleveland Indians right now. Who story is amazing in and of itself. He played football for 4 years at Rutgers and then decided to walk on to the baseball team his last year, and just was amazing. And he's still amazing. And I don't know, that's a different story. But it goes to full count. So now we have bases loaded, bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, in-state rival, Big East tournament. And I can't feel my hands because I'm just shaking. And he hits a ball, and I swear to God, I didn't turn around because I thought it was a grand slam and we lost the game. But our left fielder, he caught the ball, hit the wall, bounced back, we win the game, and I knew right then, that moment, that that was the last pitch I was ever going to throw. And I did. And that was the first game my dad ever saw, last time I ever met my dad. And I do apologize. I'm kind of like glorifying myself here. I don't mean to, but because I am very humble and very grateful for it. All this time, I never changed my attitude on my drinking. I minimized it. I didn't remove it. My lust, I kind of became, and I did up until about 8 months ago, when I gratefully met my girlfriend right now. I was kind of the weekend warrior type, where I was going to give it my all Monday through Friday and then give it my all Friday night to Saturday. And that's what I took in to my later years in college and, up to about 8 months ago. Even with the recognition of God, even with, me physically showing up on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings, just know that. So I graduated. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just seek God. I seeked His Spirit because I had no idea what my abilities were, and I just prayed that the Holy Spirit would intervene and show me where my meaning and purpose was in the work field. I definitely didn't deserve it because I took advantage of every gift I had up to that point. But through faith and appetite and God's grace, He delivered. He brought me to a company that it was a sales and marketing position. I started marketing. I got promoted, and it was a a home remodeling company, and I had to script a 2.5-hour presentation in front of homeowners and try to get them to buy a $30,000 roof that night. You know, I wasn't bad at it, but eventually God's Spirit intervened, and I left that company. I learned a lot, but I also became obsessed with worldly things. You know, it's kind of, I don't know if anyone's seen The Wolf of Wall Street, but it was kind of very similar to that, with 60 salesmen sitting out there with a one-head honcho telling us that we can't leave until we get what we want, that we're doing the right thing, blah, 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 blah. And they would fuel this, you know, even though I had this relationship with God, I couldn't help by what my peers believed, what I was getting thrown into, that I absorbed it. And but I left, and I knew it wasn't right, but I was grateful that I found some sort of ability, you know, some sort of purpose in the work field, and it led me to Apex Systems, which is a IT recruiting. So I took on a position of recruiting, and I was super pumped about it because now I can apply my abilities in sales and marketing to help people get jobs, and I thought I was fascinated with that. And you know, it taught me many forms outside of, you know, how businesses work, how businesses operate, and you know, but I was still consumed. I was still consumed with alcohol, and maybe it was the sales and being single for so long at that time that you know, there's so much built up and testosterone leaving a Friday night, and you're just like, you know, you just want to unleash it and channel it somewhere, and I would always channel it in the wrong way. And it led me to one of the biggest blessings in disguise. Was we had a team building event at Dave & Buster's. We're supposed to get back at 7 p.m., got back at 11 p.m. I left my car at the office. I drove back to my buddy's house. I passed a tow truck. Tow truck called the cops, and cops pulled me over in the parking lot of the apartment building that I was at. I got DUI, and I was completely shaken up. I realized that moment that I had nothing. You know, I live in a remote area. I had no access to a career, you know, a job. I pretty much accepted that I lost everything. But that night when I went to sleep and I was just crying out to God, that He filled me with such a sense of peace that it almost brought me to tears. Even though I couldn't see it at the moment, it's you know, it's so clear and evident, and now it makes sense. But that day I was like, you know what, I guess I'll just quit my job and I'll go work in New York City. I'll take the train in. I'm sitting in the shower, and the song comes on by Kings of Leon. It says, if you give up New York, I'll give you Tennessee. There's no place better to be. If you give up New York, I'll give you Tennessee. There's no place better to be. And oh, I never really liked New York anyway, so I'm gonna go to Nashville. I can escape my DUI, not tell anybody, release that embarrassment. I can still keep my my license if I get it early enough. I can live in the city. It all made sense. I had this plan. I walk in Monday morning, and my boss, sure enough, he goes, Henry, we recognize your great efforts here. We're gonna promote you to account executive. I was like, oh, funny. So I'm leaving on Friday, and I'm going to Nashville. And that was kind of the story that I filled myself with. And I told everybody. And I love the idea of it, and it let me escape the fact that I had a DUI in my mind, that I didn't have to live in that reality. I told people that I was trying to sell my car and it was getting work done. That's why I wasn't driving it. I came up with all of these lies to convince other people because I cared about what they thought about me, instead of being truthful and accepting God's reality. And you know, I find that when we don't accept, we resist. And when we resist our reality, we only amplify our suffering. And that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. I only amplified it. I only made matters worse, and I had to keep up with all these lies. And emotionally, I just couldn't be true with myself. But that Friday, as I walk out of that company for the last time, I get a call from my coach, who I worked with. And he's like, "Hey, how would you like to coach baseball?" I was like, "That's great, because I don't have a job. So when is it?" He's like, "Well, it starts in a week. You'll get linked up with this guy." And I told him my situation. I was like, "Yeah, I don't have a car, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "Don't worry about it." And, that was one of the biggest blessings. I still coach to this day, and I'm absolutely in love with it. I find way more joy in that than I did ever, what I did on a baseball field. And I truly believe that gift doesn't really come full circle till you give it back. And that's kind of where I'm at with baseball right now. And regardless of anything that I did, I'm just grateful that God gave me my gift, and I took advantage of it, because now I can use it as motivation for the kids that I coach. Don't be like me. Don't do what I did. Preserve your gift. Take advantage of every moment that you have. This is what you should do. So, anyway, and with that, if I didn't get that DUI, if I didn't leave that company, the coaching job would not have messed with my schedule. So it was an absolute blessing. And in that moment, I started to realize, like, oh, okay, well, maybe that DUI did happen for a reason. I took on a simple job at a golf course right up the street, and conveniently enough, it worked right with baseball. And one day I decided this is what it is, and I have to give this my very best. I have to leave it out in the field, even if it doesn't, reflect who I feel career-wise I'm at the worldly stature I should be. And that's when doors kind of started to open for me. I started to see other opportunities, and it eventually led me to the birth of my company that I started. The 3-year anniversary comes up in a couple months, and it's been one of the biggest blessings this side of heaven. It's given me purpose. It exploits my abilities. I get to help small business. It's a digital marketing agency, so we do web design. We help companies with social media, lead generation, and help with their Google rankings. And the passion behind that I get to help and serve small local businesses get business. I loved it. I love the idea of it. And it grew. And my second month, October, was my second month that I went full time. I remember I was going to AA because I had to by mandation of the state of New Jersey. I'm walking down to the one local to my area, and the song comes back on. That song that says, "If you give up New York, they'll give you Tennessee. There's no place better to be." It comes back on. Oh, here we go. This is a song. And I didn't hear the chorus that time. And at this time, I was kind of split. I was like, things are starting to go well. I got a couple sales under my belt. Maybe I won't go to Nashville. I was split right down the middle emotionally. And God made it very clear in that moment. My company is called New Wave Digital Designs. And the chorus of that song is "Ride out the wave, ride 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 out the wave." I dropped my headphones, like, holy cow! And it became so clear in that moment. I'm not going to Nashville. I'm meant to be right here. This is my purpose. God brought me here for this moment, and I just became so grateful to have the freedom and opportunity to fulfill this. And of all the sales books that I guess, and I'm almost done. I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I got a couple less points. But of all the sales books and all the business startup modules and self-help books, that I've read to help with growth of business and being an entrepreneur, nothing rings more true than what I read in the Bible, and that is the God's honest truth. Because when I apply the applications I learned in the Bible to my day-to-day, that's where I find absolute bliss. And something, just patience, because business goes like this, and acceptance and perseverance, and a sense of humor, but that one's mine. So, sometimes the other stuff is a little hard, and you just gotta laugh and just carry on in faith. And that's about it on my company. But I did want to share one moment that God kind of brought me through. And again, still to this time, I'm drinking and going out to bars and trying to meet random women and whatever. And emotionally, I dealt with that a lot. And I felt a lot of times that I was going to church not out of divine love and gratitude for God and everything that He brought me to, but I was playing like a checks and balances with my sins almost. Where I was like, okay, well, I just drank, I went out, and I did a bunch of other dumb stuff. Well, now I got to go to church to wash away the sins, and now I got to go. Now I got to go, give $10 at the ShopRite bucket because I know that when I do that, I'm taking on Jesus' character, and that's what I should do. And it's crazy. Like, I would do the things, even though in my heart I knew what to do. The weekend, I was completely someone else. Monday through Friday, I was a strict, no nonsense. I gave my heart and my soul to God. Read the Bible every morning, and I prayed, I communicated, I stayed in constant contact. But then the weekend hit, and I was like, oh, okay, well, and I would just justify it through what my crazy friends would do. And since they were doing it, and I had nothing else to do because I worked and lived alone, why not? Whatever. But again, gracefully, God brought me my loving girlfriend who stabilizes me, and she kind of fills all those plugs where I didn't have control. I accepted that. I accepted that this was who I was going to be. But through God's grace, He brought her into my life, and again, for the past 8 months, it's been a lot different. My heart has turned, and I started to come to CR, it's almost like I was born again. Funny. But yeah, one thing. So last year, and then I'll go into my closing. It's just a short, quick story, and it's just a testimony to God's existence and that He delivers on everything. And it's just one crazy big coincidence. I get a phone call from my step grandfather who says, "Well, you're gonna have to take me to the hospital. I have to get surgery on my heart. I have to get my heart scoped. Not a big deal. I'll get you. You can come pick me up tomorrow." All right, Pop, you could have given me a heads up other than let's leave now for the hospital. But I take him in, and he turns out, he calls me back, and he's like, well, the surgery didn't take. I need to get open heart surgery tomorrow. Wow. All right, can you bring some stuff in? So I gather stuff, I go in, I spend some time with them. And here it is, he's not my dad, but he's definitely my father. And it's in these emotional moments where you start to, rejoice. Just the times that you spend, you start to accept the fact that this might be the last time that you see this person. And, God was His grace is just unbelievable. I remember just riding home, and I'm coming on 287 up over the mountain. And the sun, it was about 4:30, sun setting. The sun hits, and I wasn't listening to music at that time. And as soon as I turn on the radio, the sun hits, and the song comes on that says, "This is not the problem, this is the solution." And in that moment, I knew, before he even went into surgery, that everything was going to be okay. And, it just goes to attest all the different ways that God can communicate to us. Through music, through our intuition, through our hearts, through other people, through the Bible. The next day I go in, and I'm happy to see him. And that day I get a call from my actual grandfather, who said that my dad passed away on an overdose. And I was like, oh, overdose. I thought he was clean. I thought all those guys blah, and I was like, okay. And I just remember in that moment that just being so grateful that God prepared me for that through my grandfather, because it brought me down, and I accepted death. I was in that state of mind when it happened, even though I wasn't close with my dad, it's always kind of like it's a loss. But I just remember being so grateful that he kind of pre-lubricated me for that moment, the day before. And that's it. That's where I was going with that. But anyway, that's kind of it for me, guys. Again, I'm not the best at public speaking. It's only my second time. I just wanted to thank everybody for letting me come out. And again, I just challenge you, regardless of where you're at in your walk with God, your recovery, to just seek, even if it's not clear, to seek to know how you can extend the kingdom of God, because it comes back, and it's such an amazing thing. And I like to close. I heard something in my meditation the other day, the power of one, and it was we're born in a day, we die in a day, we can fall in love in a day, we can get sober in a day, and we can be saved in a day. So with that, guys, thank you so much. God bless everybody. And
Well done, sir.